my name is Jason JROCK Houston, and you guys are listening to Destroyer 40 tonight. Our special guest with us is Kiss Alive drummer Jason Lee Beckwith, which is a great Los Angeles-based Kiss tribute band. And tonight on Destroyer 40, we'll be talking with Jason and some of his bandmates about the fact that the classic 1976 Kiss album is celebrating its 40th anniversary. How you doing tonight, Jason? You'd like to introduce your bandmates to us?
Yeah, man, I'm doing great. I'm having a great time, man. I can't believe that album has been out for 40 years.
Yeah.
I'd love to let you know who's in the room with me. I'm here with my guitar player, David Towns, and I'm also here with the guitar player or the drummer, my friend Rick Root from, what is your band these days, man? Custard Pie, man.
Oh.
You'd swear you're listening to Led Zeppelin, dude.
Wow. That's great. Now, so Jason, share with me. I mean, I know you're a longtime Kiss fan. Share with me your thoughts on Destroyer. I mean, again, this is 40th anniversary of this album. What were your thoughts when you first heard this album the very first time?
Well, I'll tell you what. I thought it was, those kind of rock opera albums or concept albums, stuff like that, because, it had all the sound effects and stuff in it, too, like the Kids on God of Thunder or the car crash nudges and the radio, the car radio playing as he gets into the car.
Yeah.
And goes to go on Detroit Rock City. From start to finish, the whole album really is more like an experience than just a collection of random songs slapped together and put in some artwork.
Now let me ask you, because, those first three Kiss albums were a lot more raw, if you know what I mean, compared to Destroyer. And they really weren't... Why is that?
Two words, why?
Why?
Eddie Kramer.
You're the second person who has, told me that. But, interestingly enough, my point I was making is those first three Kiss albums didn't really sell that well. And then when they released Kiss Alive, that album is really the album that really put them over the top. And the reason for that was because Kiss was really making some serious noise with their live show, but they just until I guess Destroyer, people didn't really take notice of them. Now I want to ask you about this because your band, oddly enough, is called Kissed Alive. So when you take the album right before Destroyer, which was Kiss Alive, and then you get Destroyer, initially I understand there's a huge backlash from Kiss fans because, like you were point you're making, it's kind of a concept album. It's a lot more polished, a lot more commercial sounding. So was that kind of your thought when you heard Destroyer for the first time?
I got to be honest with you, not a bit.
Okay.
What we did, I was on board from the opening sound effects of Detroit Rock City, because I had already been on board with what the band, they had well established what type of band they were.
Yeah. And
so if they were going to take a little bit of a left turn, I was on board already. Not a problem at all. Not a problem.
And it's amazing, like we're talking, this album is, celebrating 40 years, and it's amazing to me because if you look at a lot of the Kiss set lists that they're still playing, or the songs off this album, a lot of their songs still being played on the radio, or the songs off of this album.
I'll tell you what, it's interesting. I know you were just talking about the transition between sounds and stuff from there earlier, and it made me think, when their first three albums were very poppy sounding, like look at Beatles from I Want to Hold Your Hand.
Yeah.
Then they go to something like Sgt. Pepper later on. It's a completely different sonic landscape, going from that to the Eddie Kramer stuff with the live album and then to Detroit Rock City. So transitioning from the earlier stuff to that was not a problem for me because especially when you've got God of Thunder, when you've got Detroit Rock City, yeah, they're a little bit more polished than those earlier ones, but they're certainly 10 times heavier. You know what I mean?
Yeah, now let me give you a little bit of trivia here, Jason. I don't know if you know this. You probably do, being the Kiss fan you are, but did you happen to know that God of Thunder is a song that was actually written by Paul Stanley and not Gene Simmons?
Absolutely. I'll go you one better. Have you heard the demo that exists with Paul Stanley singing lead vocals and the disco beat? That's
the next thing I was going to bring up, because for anybody who hasn't had a chance to hear that, if you get the Kiss box set, it is on there.
It's the same box set that has Wicked Lester tunes on it.
Yeah. And interestingly enough, the reason for that, I guess, was when Bob Ezrin initially heard Paul's demo, he thought in his own head that, hey, this sounds like a lot more of a Gene song. And the interesting thing about that is it became Gene's persona. I mean, these days he's known as the God of Thunder, and I've heard that demo Paul Stanley doing, but I think Ezrin was right. It fits Gene so good,
I think the early days, a lot of the stuff, and I don't know, I'm sure Dave, you might agree with this, that a lot of stuff in the early days where they were still developing their characters, and just kind of falling, they fell into their roles organically, and I think, like, anything, like, with certain songs, more, like, if that's more of a heavy song, then maybe that should go to Gene, or if it's a song that needs, higher vocals, maybe that should go to Paul or something, but, like they all kind of found their niche. Right.
Yeah. Yeah, and anytime I look at Destroyer, I immediately say to people that, to me, as great as that album is, a lot of a reason for that is Bob Ezrin. To me, he's a secret ingredient there. Would you agree?
Hello?
Yeah, did you hear that? I was saying when I think about Destroyer, to me, like a lot of reasons that album is so huge is because of Bob Ezrin. To me, he's really the secret ingredient there. Would you agree with that?
Oh, absolutely. I think, between him and Eddie Kramer, they're a 1-2 punch that, the production sound on that, what do you think, Dave?
I think it's definitely a step up. And, I don't know. I enjoy it.
Yeah, it's big, huge, when you listen to a song like Great Expectations and stuff, just the different sounds and the landscapes on that album is insane.
Yeah, well, let me share with you for this Destroyer 40 special we're doing here. I interviewed Marcus Allen Christopher. He's a singer from his band Miss Crazy, and they kind of have like they get dressed up in the makeup too. And he was very influenced by Kiss. But he was sharing with me. He said, "Did you ever wonder why, Destroyer being the huge success it was, that they didn't work more with Bob Ezrin?" And I've often kind of wondered that to myself. And he says, if you think about it, he goes, the reason those first 3 Kiss albums were so raw, he says, is because that's kind of a sound the band wanted. And he said that's why after Destroyer, when they went back and they did Rock and Roll Over, 3 months down the line, they didn't get Bob Ezrin. They got Eddie Kramer, the guy that recorded Kiss Alive. He said they wanted that. That's the kind of sound they wanted. And this guy Marcus Allen Christopher, he was telling me, he goes, I love Rock and Roll Over. I love Kiss Alive. I love Gun. He said Eddie Kramer, to him, he felt was a much better producer for Kiss. It sounds like that you were kind of saying the same thing about Eddie Kramer earlier yourself, Jason.
Well, sort of. I do think he was the best producer for sure. He definitely captured that sound. I think a lot of the early stuff was more to the songwriting, the production team, Kerner and Wise.
Yeah.
And I think they had a lot to do with shaping that early sound, and the reason why it sounded kind of so pop. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think once they, what can you say about Bob Ezrin? Did he do a lot of stuff for Alice Cooper as well?
Yeah. Actually, before Kiss, he did a lot of stuff with Alice Cooper, and I think that's kind of where they discovered him. And you've probably heard the story several times yourself over the years, where Paul Stanley has said countless times that the way they got the idea to even do the makeup is all four of them went to see Alice Cooper in concert, and Paul's thought was, instead of having just one guy in the band get made up, let's have all 4 guys in the band get made up and create their own characters, and so that's how they even initially got the idea to do the makeup. But the thing with Bob Ezrin, if you look at the
line from Alice Cooper to Kiss, that's a very short figurative hop.
Yeah, and even if you look at the credits on Destroyer, Bob Ezrin's not only the producer, but he is he's also listed as a songwriter on. He's like the 5th member of the band. He's listed as a songwriter on every single tune there, and so much to the point that this guy had so much control of this album that when Ace Frehley wasn't showing up to do some of the recording sessions, he called in Alice Cooper's guitar player Dick Wagner to come in, and he's featured on Sweet Pain. He does a guitar solo on Beth. That's not even Ace that plays on Beth. So I don't even know if you guys were aware of it, but that's another.
I believe that when they recently came out with what's the name? Let's see. Hey Rick, do you remember the name when they called it? When they reissued it recently, and
yes.
Resurrected.
Resurrected.
Right?
Yes. Yes, that's it.
Yeah. I think they included the original versions with Ace's original solos.
I think so, and talking a little bit about that Resurrected album for anybody that hasn't had a chance to really check it out. I'm not a big fan of buying albums that I already got in my collection, but this is a neat thing for the simple fact that it's a remastered version, which on this particular release, what that means is the drums are a lot more bombastic, they're a lot more, you can hear the drums a lot better, and they also featured the original artwork on the new version, which is this cool looking black cover, and for some reason the record company back in the day felt it looked too much like the End of the World, it looked too violent, and that's why they ended up going with the blue cover.
Artwork, yeah, it had more graphic use of flames and buildings on fire, and it also had the Alive One costumes.
Yeah.
They wanted to have the guys on the album cover in the costumes they were going to take out for the new tour.
Yeah. Now being, back in the day, like when Destroyer was first released, nobody had an idea that Dick Wagner played on some of the guitar parts on the album. Being the Kiss fan you are, do you care one way or the other now that you know stuff like that?
I'll tell you what, man. No, I don't care.
Yeah.
To be honest with you, it doesn't affect my enjoyment of those original songs, not one bit. Just like the argument over how live of a record is Kiss Alive doesn't affect me one bit. I can still listen to that song for hours on end because it's a great record.
Yeah,
and about how live or not live or how touched or untouched it is. It sounds great. I love the way it sounds.
And here's the thing with that. Again, that's another thing that was not known for years about that Kiss Alive album. But it's not actually a pure live album. But you know what? For people to go back and kind of criticize that now that they know that, the thing to me that's
sour grapes. That's people not liking to be surprised or whatever. I mean, if they like the album and if they like the song, it should be simple. Sometimes it can be as simple as a guy has a cold, and some band that they think has never had any problem. One day the guy had a cold and he didn't make a session, and they got a guy to fill in his part. It happens way more than anyone knows, and it doesn't affect me one bit.
Yeah, because to me the whole thing,
reminded me of how much Anton Fig started filling in for Peter Criss on the album towards the end. Before Peter was out of the band. It doesn't affect my enjoyment of anything on Dynasty or
Unmasked.
Matter of fact, to be honest with you, or Unmasked, and it doesn't. To be honest with you, it kind of adds to it to me because it adds to the backstory. It makes it more interesting to go, I can see now. That's why that sounds like that because that's Anton Fig's playing, and you start to. That's kind of when I was around the time I was learning how to play drums anyway.
Yeah.
So I started to pick up a little differences in people's styles.
Yeah, and I kind of also respect the fact back in the day that they, I think it's cool, like you said, we know this now, interesting little facts to know about the band, but also at the time, that was one of the things Kiss wanted the world and the fans and everybody to be under the illusion that, hey, we're all four guys in the band, we're all buddies, we're like brothers and we get along and it's all for one. And that was the illusion they were selling back then. And I respect the fact that back in the day, they didn't want anybody knowing that Bob Kulick played on Alive 2. They wanted everybody to think it was Ace, and they're trying to protect what was going on maybe with those guys at the time. I kind of respect that.
I don't need to see Superman without his mask. Or nobody needs to see it. The Lone Ranger without his mask on. I mean, I like the fact that they they kept the mystique of it too.
Now, another thing, I hope you don't mind getting into. I know a little history about your tribute band, Kiss Alive, obviously, because of our conversations we've had through the years. You guys actually appeared on a tribute album called Rock and Roll All Night, a tribute to Kiss, and I believe a track you guys did was Deuce, and you kind of have your own experience with what we were just talking about. Is that not correct?
Yes, absolutely I did, you know. When we did that album, funny you should mention. Yes, I did. Actually, when we did that session, not everybody from the band was in that session. Matter of fact, only 2 people in the lineup were in that session. Somebody that wasn't even in the band, a good friend of mine named Gavin Jones, played bass guitar on that.
Wow.
And all of the guitar work were done by our founding guitar player, who at the time and still since is retired from performing and is doing a completely different career. A good friend of mine named John Douglas.
Wow.
He and I started Kiss Alive together, 5-6 years ago, and he came out of hiding to come and do all of the guitar work on it. My bandmate Vinny J, who is our Paul Stanley currently, he did some of the vocals with me. I did the drums, most of the lead vocals.
Wow.
So it really wasn't like the guy who should have been singing it wasn't singing it, and the guy who should have been playing bass on it wasn't playing bass on it, and you know what? It didn't matter. It was a great track, and I'll tell you what, I'll put it up against anything else the band has done. You know, it sounds great and it sounds authentic because it was done in the right spirit, and so it didn't affect my band one bit that it wasn't an organic recording in terms of who was in there. I don't think anybody would listen to it and enjoy it any less. I certainly don't.
Yeah, and
I have no bad memories of that session at all.
And when I listen to it, like, to me, one cool thing, it's further proof at how you can really work magic in the studio, but it really comes off, sounding like a live track to me. It sounds like, Kiss in concert, and I don't know if that's the effect you were obviously going for, but
I'll tell you that was intentional, and it wasn't. And I'll tell you what I mean by both. And my guitar player Dave here, he'll probably agree with me on the latter. Okay, it was intentional where we added in crowd noise to make it sound like a live track, kind of inspired by the controversy around Kiss Alive. And also because I play way faster than I probably should when I play the drums. I tend to speed up my tempo. What do you think, Dave? Yeah, he does. So I kind of rush the beat a little bit, and I play fast, which is what they did in concert, especially in the early days when they were young and on fire and mean and lean. You know, he pushed that tempo. I don't know if it was Kevin T. And they were on fire and they played like it.
Now let me ask you your choice to cover the song Deuce. Now when you guys got picked to be part of that tribute CD, did the record company kind of tell you, hey, we'd like you to record Deuce, or did they give you the option of recording whatever song you wanted?
That's a great question, and it's a simple answer. No, they had, actually that was my idea, and I'll tell you why. Originally I was angling to have my band be the very first track on the CD.
Cool, yeah.
That's fine, you know that, but hey, well, what can I say? I'm always trying to, I'm a team player. I always look out for my band's best interest.
It's kind of interesting you say that because...
What I thought was, I asked him, I said, our band's name was pulled from Kiss Alive. And I said, the very first track on that CD was Deuce. Do you have anybody doing that song yet? And he says, no. And I said, I would love to do that song, and I want to open it up just like Kiss Alive, the album opens up with you wanted the best, you got the best, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
I think it would be a great thing to have on your record.
And it's
for me, in a moment of insanity, they agreed and they let us do our thing.
It's interesting you make that point because I've heard Gene in several interviews over the years. People ask him, "What's your all-time favorite Kiss song?" He says, "Well, I have to be honest. Anytime anybody asks me that, I say Deuce for the simple fact that's the first track on the first CD. That's the first thing most people ever heard from a band."
Yeah, you know what? And I'll tell you what, it makes for an insane opening song. It's great. It's a punch. It's straight to the chest. It's a rock and roll. It's a barn burner. You open it up and it's just complete energy. But at the same time, you get to have little chops in there too. There's some drum fills. There's a solo. There's a little something for everybody in the band to instantly state within the first 3 minutes and 30 seconds. we're going to kick your ass, you know, and you do it right up front, and you let everybody know it with a song like that. So it's hard to go wrong. I got to say, I agree with Gene Simmons. If he says that's his favorite song, I agree with him, because I think it's a great Kiss song.
Yeah, and you know, talking about, get back to Destroy for a minute, talking about some of these songs, okay, we've already discussed your thoughts on Detroit Rock City. The next track on the album is King of a Nighttime World. What are your thoughts on that one?
Well, you know what? I like it. I like the way the drums start out.
Yeah.
So as a drummer, I gotta say that, I don't know, I kind of like it. Dave, what do you think of this song? What do you think?
I think it's great. I think it's catchy. I enjoy it. Following up after Detroit Rock City, I mean, it's a bit of a contrast. But,
Yeah.
Dude, I dig it. I dig it.
Now, of course, Jason, you know, you're the drummer and you're playing the role of Peter Criss in your band Kiss Alive. So, and I know you talked before about one of the songs that you've performed live. It was obviously Black Diamond off the first Kiss album. But I got to ask, have you ever got up there and had your best moment?
What's that?
Have you ever got up there and had the spotlight on you, come out from, do your Peter Criss, come out from behind the drum set and do Beth and
Actually, at most of our shows we do that, because to be honest with you, I can't get away without doing that song most gigs. And the few gigs that we don't play, like we recently did a gig where we didn't set. We've got a lot of stuff to add in, and some nights you take something out and put something else in. You got to shake it up. That's one of the ones we didn't get around to that night, and I actually heard about it online afterwards. Somebody was posting on our website, "Hey, you still owe us that."
Now, like when you do perform, Beth, I got to ask: is that a highlight for you to get up from behind the drum kit and and sing and kind of have a spotlight on you, or do you prefer to like really just be behind your drum kit?
Honestly, it's both ways.
Yeah.
I like going up there and being able to connect with the crowd, because in my other band, my solo band, Jason Lee and Friends, and the band I was in before that, Loss of Control, I was the lead singer. So when I go out and do my solo gigs, I do a lot of lead vocals and front end stuff. So, if I want to scratch that itch, I've got plenty of ways to do that.
Yeah.
When I drum, if I didn't have to, we all sing background in this band because we're one of the few tribute bands of our kind of bracket, let's say, premier level, top level tribute bands that don't use any backing tracks in terms of vocals. We don't sweeten it up at all. We sing all our own harmonies. We sing our own background vocals, for better or for worse, but it's all organic, and I think it sounds pretty good.
Well, see, that's, yeah.
So, but if I didn't have to do that, I would prefer to just, when I play drums, just put my head down and play. I like to just really get into it. And, to me, a jack of all trades is a master of none. I play better drums when I just focus on drums. So, but that being said, I like to go up there and sit up front. I have a couple of minutes of getting out there and singing to somebody or singing to the crowd or whatever, and they sing along with me usually. So it's nice, but we all have moments like that in the show. So every single one of us, it's really a four-wheeled car when it comes to our stage show. There is I'll call Stanley character is the one that does the talking to the crowd.
Yeah.
But we all have moments, I think, in the show where we all get to shine. So it's really a four-wheeled vehicle.
Well, see, that's one thing I always loved about Kiss as a fan, that they did not, for example, have one guy doing all the lead singing. You had two guys doing it most of the time, but, they were guys that wrote the songs. But, Kiss is one of the few bands where you've had, they're actually each member, gets a song every now and then. Beth is a perfect example of that, like what we're saying with Peter Criss. Peter Criss, up until that point, he was singing other people's, material on Kiss albums for the most part, and Beth was his first chance to really shine, on one of his own songs.
Well, there again, that's about as debatable as any other myth and legend in the history book, let's say. He co-wrote it with one of his early bandmates in a band called Chelsea, which was his pre-Kiss band.
Yeah.
And the lyrics were very different at the time. It was, I guess he had a girlfriend that used to call the studio and complain a lot. Her name was Becky, maybe, and so the song was originally called Beck. And I guess the story goes, correct me if I'm wrong, guys, but the story goes that when they presented it to Kiss, it was still called Beck. and they asked him to change it to Beth, but there was, I guess Gene said something like, I guess the famous quote is, people are going to think you're singing to Jeff Beck. So, you know.
Yeah. Actually, the story goes too, just to add to that, is everything you said is correct, except it was not Peter's girlfriend. It was actually the lead singer of that band, Chelsea. His name was Michael something, and it was his girlfriend was always called to the studio. And
Well, it wasn't really Peter Chris's girlfriend.
Yeah. And interesting.
Yeah. It's funny. But you know what? I can't say enough about good things about that song. I've gotten a lot of mine. I sang had a lot of cool moments in our concerts. A couple of the guys from the band, as you probably know, were in a short film based on the lyrics to that song called Beth, which is available on Vimeo. I guess all anybody's got to do is just Google the words Beth on Vimeo, and the first thing that pops up is this short film directed by a guy named Brian Billows. And it's pretty cool. It's very 70s when you watch it. It's like the old phones with the little curly phone cords that you want to go around and move the room, set it down on the counter. And while he had this out of the counter and stuff.
Wow, I do recall seeing that online about a year or so ago, or maybe a couple of years actually now. But getting back to Beth, one of the moments I really loved in Paul Stanley's book is when he was talking about this, and he makes the kind of same point you, which is anytime Peter's ever had a song on a Kiss album, it's usually been he's written with this guy Stan Pendridge or the song somebody else wrote. He says even with Beth, that wasn't a Peter song. He co-wrote it with Stan Pendridge, and he brought it to the band. And then once Bob Ezrin got a hold of it, he changed it to Beth, and he added the piano parts, and he rewrote some of the lyrics. So he says if Bob Ezrin hadn't got a hold of it, it wouldn't be what it was. So who knows what the truth is?
Well, I think in Peter's defense, though, any great song that gets to the caliber of a number one hit, the People's Choice Award for Best Song of the Year, which was the only time that ever happened for Kiss, was for Beth. When you get a song like that, or say a song like Enter Sandman, let's say from Metallica, by the time it gets to what you hear on the radio, it's a very different animal, and very often the producer has a very heavy hand in shaping the outcome, like Mutt Lange does for Def Leppard records. They reshape stuff, they'll rearrange stuff, and it's a big group effort. It goes through a big process. They put a lot of work into crafting the song.
Yeah. You make a very good point there. And now let me ask you another song, "Shout It Out Loud." I compare that to kind of it's the anthem of the album. It's kind of rock and roll all night. That's what they're trying to go there. But what do you think of that song?
Shout It Out Loud. I think it's great. I think it stands on its own. I don't think at all that was a Rock and Roll All Night Part 2 or anything like that. I think they did want to write an anthem, and it clearly was an anthem. But I think that there's other songs you could point to in the Kiss catalog that were probably a really clear attempt at recreating that kind of vibe. Let's say Tomorrow and Tonight.
Yeah.
For example, Tomorrow and Tonight. I believe that was off of Love Gun, right?
Yes.
Right. That song was clearly an attempt, a blatant attempt. In my opinion, as a fan, listening to their songs and not knowing shit about how they wrote the song, I think that was clearly an attempt to recreate, step by step in the playbook, rock and roll all night.
Yeah.
And I think when you do that with those kind of intentions, it falls short.
Mm-hmm.
I think you can see that it falls short. But I think Shout It Out Loud is great. We open a lot of our shows with it, don't we?
Yeah, we do. And the cool thing about it is that it implements a hook.
Yeah.
And that's what gives it that anthem feel, I believe, is it's got a good hook and people can sink their teeth into it and it's easy to sing along and raise your hand or glass or whatever, and it's an inclusive song and it makes you feel good.
I mean, you make a very good point there. Shout It Out Loud. That's one thing I will say about the song is, like you said, you put your fist up in there, and it's one of those songs that, it's like, you are our people, this is our song. People can really get behind it, and it brings the audience and the band, together. That's one thing I've always, gone out of that.
And it does that actually very literally. It brings them together because there's that a song needs, every trick that you can put in the playbook, not necessarily trick, but like James says, everything that you can put in the playbook to connect yourself with an audience, that song has a lot of it. It has harmonies, it has call and response, it's got call and response between members of the band, and it's got a part where the audience gets to sing with the band. We go a cappella, and it's just drums, the band, and the audience. No instruments, everyone singing together as one, audience and band. So everything you need to connect with the song, you can find it and shout it out loud. I got no issue with that song at all.
Yeah. And I got to ask you, Jason, going back to Beth for a minute. Again, this Destroyer album been talking about, celebrating 40 years. That was the first time that Kiss ever did anything close to a ballad. So going back to when you first heard the song, when you first got the album for the very first time in your hands, did that bother you at all? Do you think, they're trying to go commercial, or did you just fall in love with the song?
No, I'll tell you why. Because I've always, in my musical taste, growing up, honestly, me personally, I had no issue with it because I had a very broad upbringing musically. My first records, my first concerts were influenced by my mom, actually, Nancy McGrosso. I would listen to, because she was in a gospel trio.
Okay.
I grew up in a Methodist church where my mom played piano. A little known fact about me, I guess. I don't talk about it much these days, but my mom was originally a singer in the church choir, and she became the accompanist, playing piano and organ. And then her and two other gals from the church choir formed a trio, and they used to go and play at different churches around New York State and stuff like that, where just three of them singing and my mom on the piano for accompaniment. And of course, I was too young at the time to stay home with my brothers and sisters, so I would have to go with her. So I'd be sitting there in the front pew watching them perform, So that's probably kind of where I got the bug. And then aside from that, she took me to my first concerts, which weren't anything like the music that I play. My first concert was a gospel trio named the Bill Gator Trio. My second was a kind of a jazz outfit named they had the song called "The Boy from New York City." The Manhattan Transfer, but it was way before that commercial hit. But it was I went to see them. That was like my second concert ever.
Oh wow!
And from there, I was stealing her record albums. She went around, so it was like Bette Midler, Ray Charles.
Wow.
I mean, all kinds of stuff. So, and then once I got to be about 7, 8, 9, I'm stealing my brother's record albums, and that's where I got Kiss. And when I was 9 years old, the thing that really hooked me into rock and roll was two things. My brother left for the Air Force. He turned 18, and the morning he left, I woke up early to say goodbye to him. I was 9 and he was 18. It was my oldest brother, David. And he when he got up early, he gave me all his Kiss records in a pile. He left to go to the Air Force to say goodbye.
Wow.
He gave me all his Kiss records. And from then on, photo on the inside of Alive 2, the concert photo.
Yeah.
That one photo probably has more to do with me being in bands and playing rock and roll than anything else.
Wow.
I used to sit there and play air drums on my mom's couch to that record, looking at that photograph up on the top of the couch.
Wow. Now let me ask you, because, of course, talking about Destroyer, we've been talking about Bob Ezrin, the producer and a guy that wrote a lot of the songs on here. Several years later, I mean, he's also the same guy that produced music from Velder. He produced Revenge, and oddly... And yeah.
Revenge, he certainly redeemed himself. You know what? I think every band deserves a left turn like the Elder. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Band had one, like for Metallica, it was what was that one that they had? Saint Anger. Yeah, thanks, Dave. Saint Anger. Everybody deserves a left turn like that, where you just kind of, as a fan, you make that Saint Bernard face where you tilt your head, you kind of go, huh?
Well, I'll tell you, yeah.
That I can appreciate it because there's a lot of stuff on that album that is to be appreciated.
I'll tell you a funny story about...
Bob Ezrin any more than I can put put that on Gene or Paul. You know?
Yeah, I'll tell you a funny story about The Elder. That was the one Kiss album for years that was not available. They stopped. It was out of print for several years, and I remember always like, oh man, that's because I had every other Kiss album. Like, man, that's that one album. Before I die, I gotta get my hands on. And once
that thing was the one thorn in the side for completers to have in their collection.
And then once they put it back out, I got it, and I'll admit I didn't fall in love with it. I didn't think it was the greatest. I didn't think it was like the next Destroyer or anything. But I thought, but at the same time, I didn't think it was as bad as everybody else said. It's just, to me, it's one of those things. It's not a Kiss album. And I think a lot of what had to do with the way the album came out, I think, partly because that's right before Ace was leaving the band, and he wasn't showing up for a lot of recording, which is kind of interesting because they were recording a lot of it in his home recording studio. But also, I think what happened at the time, they wanted to get back with Bob Ezrin, and I think see if they could have a repeat of Destroyer, because he's a guy that just, if you remember at the time, right in 1980, right before The Elder came out, he had produced Pink Floyd's other classic, the other classic album in his repertoire, The Wall.
Wow.
And so
he produced that. I mean, that guy, he makes some monumental albums. And I'll tell you what, you also mentioned that one of my favorite non-makeup era albums for Kiss, which was Revenge, with Bruce Kulick and, of course, their current drummer, Eric Singer. Just a massive stuff. I think, honestly, looking back, The Elder probably caused a lot less controversy than something like Dynasty, where they had the quasi-disco stuff.
Yeah. I mean, and talk about Revenge for a little bit, because I think there's a place for that album to be discussed in this Destroyer 40 special, for the fact that, like I said, Bob Ezrin was a producer on that. And see, right at the time when that was released, I mean, I myself, I heard a lot of the songs for the first time. I thought, not only is Bob Ezrin back, but this sounds like, Destroyer Part 2. I mean, you take a song like God Gave Rock and Roll to You, which is not even a Kiss song. It's originally written by Argent. They changed some of the lyrics for the Kiss version, but I thought, okay, this is Destroyer Part 2, and again, you have Gene and Paul and Ezrin. They once again, but they did what made Destroyer such a great album. They stepped the songwriting up. Gene and Paul went back to not just writing their own individual tracks. They started writing together again. They started trading off on lead vocals, like what they did with Destroyer. And I think that's why Revenge is right up there with Destroyer.
I think absolutely. It was a combination of old and new stuff that was proven to, I think it was a great updating of the sound. And I think, it couldn't have been done, honestly, without Bruce Kulick. I think his contribution overall to the Kiss catalog and the history has kind of gotten lost in the mix a little bit. They focused on the non-makeup, the makeup originals versus the makeup current guys, and all that stuff that's been going on with, Tommy versus Ace, Ted versus Peter, and all that garbage, which is irrelevant. If you like it, you like it.
Yeah.
I like it. Well, I'll go see it either way. You know what I mean? I like it now, and I like it then. But I think it was just Revenge was a perfect updating of Destroyer. I don't think it would have happened if it would have the exact same thing.
Yeah.
And it would take the best parts of the old band and the best parts of the new band. With Eric Singer and Bruce Kulick. Really, honestly, that album is my favorite, hands down, of anything they did outside of the makeup era stuff. Yeah,
because even going back to Crazy Nights, this sounds funny now to be saying this, but it's so funny how oftentimes we will allow ourselves to be fed certain things. I mean, I remember when Crazy Nights came out. That was produced by this guy Ron Nevinson that produced Ozzy and Heart. And anyways, back when they were doing press for the album after it was released, Paul was saying, "Oh yeah, Crazy Nights, it's the next Destroyer and all this." And people were really, it was a little more poppier than what they were doing at the time. It was a little more commercial, so it might have been Destroyer like in that way. But and like I said, I foolishly was buying into that. I put it, this is the next Destroyer. But now, the 1992 when they released Revenge, I said no. Crazy Nights, no. Revenge, that's Destroyer Part 2 right there.
Yeah, absolutely. I thought that I would definitely give it a Destroyer Part 2, but it also stands on its own because it's really heavy and modern sounding, you know?
Yeah.
And it's got stuff to laugh about and all kinds of other stuff. I think that it's just, but going back to Destroyer, though, I just think that it's just, it was just such a classic album. And even they had stuff like orchestral things, they had, that you could see the influence of Alice Cooper and everything that came before them, but it really was a pinnacle moment for them. I mean, where you've got like the sound effects, the whole album back to front, it really wraps you in.
Yeah, and the interesting thing, going back to Revenge for a minute, and people do, make that comparison. This is Destroy Part 2 because of the fact that you got Ezra back and stuff, and it did sound a lot like Destroyer. But the interesting thing, like point you just made, that was also a modern era Kiss album. You didn't have, they were unmasked. They went back to more of a metal look. Gene grew his goatee. They didn't have a back in the Destroyer days. They did not have a makeup to fall back on. This was a pure raw rock album. They were going back to their roots, and they didn't even have a makeup at the time.
They're reflected in their playing as well. Even Bruce Kulick, I think, in some interviews reflected that people thought that it was a conscious effort for him to start playing like Ace, and no one ever told Bruce Kulick how to play guitar. Not, if they were going to do it, they would have done it right away, not like 10 years after he's been in the band and might have some say,
Yeah. Well,
when he first got joined the band, he was doing like hammer-ons like Van Halen, not like playing, the way that Ace would play on Les Paul.
Yeah,
when he started saying that, I think he just wanted to pay respect to what makes Kiss a great band, and it's a certain style of playing. I don't know, I think Dave could probably comment on that more because he plays Ace in my band.
Yeah, the style of Ace is I think, very important. Just because you've heard Kiss with the other guitarists.
Yeah.
Very different than the Ace Frehley days, and it's because there's a blues base to it. There's a blues base to it that I think got implemented in rock and roll very early, and I think with that being present in it gives it, it gives it that bottom, that heart, that soul that a guitar needs to be in rock and roll, and not just a bunch of noise.
Okay, well, I want to thank you guys so much for being part of our Destroyer 40 special here.
Thanks for having us, man.
I'm going to wrap it up because I know you guys are very busy. It's getting late, but I want to thank you so much. When I first started putting this idea together to do this, Jason was one of the first people I want to interview, and I want to thank you, the other two guys, for taking part in this. Maybe we can do this again down the line because I do this all the time with Jason. It's always so much fun, but.
I know that you're doing this, you're part of this special, you're going to be interviewing a lot of other people, and I remember you told me that somebody very interesting that you just recently interviewed. You want to get into that real quick before you wrap up?
Oh, yeah. Actually, and I never, the man we're talking about, his name is Paul Dellis. He plays in another great Los Angeles Kiss tribute band called Gods of Thunder. His band's been together for 13 years, and you were sharing with me the other night, Jason, when I told you this, that he's a mutual friend, and he actually recently sat in with your band. So you want to tell us the story of how you and Paul know each other?
Okay, well, I'll tell you the very short version of it. About 10 years ago, I auditioned to be the drummer of his band, Gods of Thunder.
Wow.
And I didn't get the gig. Wasn't good enough. Last 4 or 10 years later, I've got my own Kiss tribute with my own band of guys, and we're just, kicking tremendous ass. We played everywhere from here to El Paso, Texas, and back. We've got a lot of great shows coming up at the end of the year. We'll be performing an outdoor concert on the Las Vegas Strip, where for the 4th year in a row, where we'll be seen by over 40,000 people in one night. People can check it out on our website, kissalive.com. On Facebook, it's facebook.com/kissalive. They can hear some of our streaming audio tracks. That track you were talking about, Deuce, from the album Rock and Roll All Night, a tribute to Kiss on Versailles Records. We've actually got a streaming copy of that that people can hear right now. Telling the old people they can hear right now on ReverbNation.com/kissalive. If tribute to Kiss.
And let me ask you one last thing, Jace, before I let you go. You're sharing me recently too that you and the band made an appearance at the Long Beach Comic Expo, and that one of the new things you were going to put out this year was your own set of Kiss Alive trading cards, like the actual guys in Kiss had back in the 70s.
Absolutely, and you know what? We've already had at the expo. We did give away a few sneak previews of it and let people see them.
And
we did.
Are people going to be able to get those?
All of them, and we'll give them out at every show. We'll probably have its own like little card that's custom just to that show, and then there'll be another one. So like there'll be a little collection that people can get. We never charge for people for stuff like that. We just like sharing in the fun, and it's a cool thing, and people like to have it, I guess.
And let me just share with you guys real quick before we end this, because again, I know we got time to wrap this up, but a couple more people that are going to be interviewed for this is Matt Starr, the drummer from Ace's band. I've interviewed Chris Weiss, the bass.
He's a hell of a drummer, and you tell Matt, I'll tell you what. Hey, Matt, if you ever need a drum tech for a tour, I'll drop what I'm doing and come and drum tech for you anytime, buddy.
We'll do that.
San Diego, so does your boss, Ace. So call me up, get a hold of me on the website. I want to come drum tech for you, Matt.
And we'll also be, Monday I'll be speaking also for this Kiss 40 special with Jamie Hunting, the bass player from Bruce Kulick's band Union, so I'm looking forward to talking to him as well.
Well, that's good. You know what? I'll tell you what, if Bruce ever needs a drummer, he knows where to find me, too. I'm right here in Oceanside, California, and I'll drop what I'm doing to come do a Bruce Kulick show anytime he doesn't have something to do with Grand Funk Railroad.
Wow. That's great. Well, thanks so much, you guys. And